Everybody, Creative Katie here. Welcome to another mixed media tutorial. This one's from the Napkins series. The napkins come from NinnysNapkins.com. Check out the description box for link and a discount code. This one is called Elizabethan Gardens, and I actually have loads of this particular napkin, and I love it so much. So I decided I'm going to put it onto this door hanger. Now, the door hanger is an odd shape. It's rectangular and long, and it has the hole. And I'm struggling a little bit on the composition. And what the best thing to do in this case is cut out the elements from your napkin. I know that because they're napkins, I can, when I decoupage them down, I can layer them, I can change the composition, I can put the lilacs where I want the lilacs. I can select which tulip I want. But right now, I'm not certain what's going to work best in the shape and size of the substrate that I want to work with. So I'm just water cutting different elements out. And when I say water cutting, I'm taking a liner brush and a very little bit of water, and you run it along the napkin. It softens the napkin, and then you can just rip it. This gives a frayed edge that really disappears when you decoupage it on. So look, here you have all the different elements that I took out from the napkin, and I can play with the composition and set it up what appeals to me and what fits the size page that I'm doing. And I can try and audition the different pieces and the different options, taking pictures along the way. So now that I have some idea about where I want to go, I'm thinking I want a light yellow, vintage looking background. So I'm going to apply Naples yellow I think I mix this with a little bit of white gesso to lighten it a little bit, to give it some variation in tone. And this time I'm actually applying it with a brush. Often you see me doing it with a makeup sponge. Use whatever works best for you. So this is just the base color. This wood door hanger was pre-gessoed, and the backside is gessoed with black gesso. Now I have some thick gesso that has thickened over time, but you can buy heavy, thick gesso, and I am pushing it through this stencil. And the name of the stencil will be in the description box below. Now, what this will do will give me texture as well as pattern into the background. I want some interest, but my focal point is what I want people to focus on. So I don't want to overpower it. I just want to have something there that's a little more interesting than just flat color. This gives less texture than modeling paste, but more than just if I had stenciled onto the background. And then when you have these nooks and crannies, you can catch paint in it, as you'll see in the upcoming. So that needs to dry. Now I'm applying a coat of the Naples yellow straight up, and I'm working it into the nooks and crannies because I want those to show up darker. Kind of almost dry brushing it at this time because I don't want it one tone. I'm putting on paint and then taking it off with a baby wipe. And you can see the interest that has been built up. Now I'm taking some brown, I believe it's burnt umber, and working it in and taking it off. Again, I don't want this to look brown, but I do want it to have that aged, vintagey look, and it's going to catch in those nooks and crannies, and then I'm lifting off the high points, and it's just a bit of a dance between applying it and taking it off and getting the look that I want. I want to add a little more interest. So I have my sepia archival ink. It's permanent when dry, and my darkroom door script stamp. And I'll put links to the stencils and the stamps in the description box below, as well as any other products that I've used that you may want to check out. So I'm loving the vintage look of this background. Now I'm going to edge it with the burnt umber. And you can see I've painted the back with black gesso, and then I will touch up any painted areas afterwards. I just find that it's easier to do that ahead and then touch up, less likely that you're going to get the black on the front once your front is all done. So now comes the time to finalize where I'm going to put the different elements that I cut out of the napkin. When you have more than one napkin, you can have two of the same tulips, you can build up the lilacs, you can basically make your own composition using the bits and pieces from somebody else's. So now that I have a great idea, I'm going to put my liquid matte medium underneath and then on top. And I use a fair bit of this. I find the more I use, the easier it is to stay down, the less trouble I end up having with it. And I'm pushing it into the nooks and crannies. Now the parts that go around the edge, I bend around the edge and I let them dry before I try to take them off. It just works better that way. It's more controlled. Sorry, this is off camera. And giving it a bit of a dry. I want to test out where the next one's going before I commit to it. And so I don't want it. So here I've used all the different elements from the same napkin. You can pick and choose and take elements from a variety of napkins and make them on one page or one canvas. I'll be doing that in an upcoming video. So now that that's all down, I want to get more of a painterly effect, make this my own. So I am getting some of the colors that are in the napkin and applying acrylic paint over top of them. I'm using the napkin art as the jump off point for my painting. And this is a great technique. I'm not being too precise. I'm mixing the paint. I'm dipping into the magenta and the deep violet and white and just applying it. Sometimes I'm going exactly where the napkin was, the art, the picture from the napkin was, and sometimes I'm adding to it or changing it. This is also adding great amount of texture because this is medium bodied paint that I'm using. And so it does have a textural element to it as well. And you can see the difference in the vividness of the side that I've done and the side that I haven't done. Now, if you like it just decoupaged on without adding this, you can leave it as is. Pick and choose what you like that I do. Try to do that. Use this napkin or use a different napkin and get the same effect. It's all about the techniques and the ideas. Now, because I'm using the medium-bodied paint, Liquitex Basics for the most part, it will take a bit of time to dry. I'm applying it very liberally, so you have to be careful not to put your hand in it or smudge it because it needs excess dried time. So now I'm just adding green. I'm using Hooker's green and just going over darkening the leaves up just a bit. I'm applying some green, I'm applying some Naples yellow, I'm applying some of the brown to shade those leaves. Now, because there's texture all under there, there's the texture from that heavy gesso that we applied as well. So this is a very texturized door hanger. And that just adds to the quality and makes it extra special. So now I'm taking the magenta and the deep violet and applying it to the tulip. The tulip was a little bit more on the orangey side than I liked, so I'm just adjusting it to fit my composition. Because there's matte medium on it, it has sealed it, and so now when I go over it, I can adjust the colors accordingly. Here I'm shading with black using my floating acrylic technique, or the floating acrylic technique. I did not create it, but I do use it an awful lot. I use my angle brush for this. Now I'm using white and using the shading, the floating acrylic, just to add some highlights. And I'm not exactly sure where the highlights should be. I'm just doing what looks good. I'm looking at the napkin, seeing what that artist, how that has been done, where the highlights are, copying that, learning from them, and just going with what looks good to me. I have some of my short and sweet sentiments that I printed off on the Avery, clear Avery. So now they're peel and stick, and I just cut off the one word believe, and I'm putting it in the corner. The sentiment in this case is very small. The focal image is what I really want to focus on. I think this makes a lovely gift or craft show sale item. I will put a link. I did find some of these wooden door hangers in Amazon, so I will put a link to them if you're interested in creating some door hangers. Just edging it now with a little bit more with the brown and then black just to finish it off. Please go to Instagram and follow me at Creative Katie. Give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment. Join my Facebook group, Mixed Media Creations. Bye for now.